Breaking news. Donald Trump just made a stunning announcement. Russia and Ukraine have agreed to immediate ceasefire talks, but the Kremlin isn't confirming the timeline. As the world watches the war rage on, Trump steps forward claiming he's brokered peace, yet Moscow stays eerily quiet. Is this the beginning of the end, or another political illusion? In this video, we break down what Trump said, what the Kremlin didn't, and what it really means for the Russia-Ukraine war and the 2024 election. In a move that stunned both political analysts and international observers, Donald Trump stepped onto a rally stage in Florida and dropped what sounded like a diplomatic bombshell. Speaking with his signature bravado, Trump declared that both Russia and Ukraine had agreed to immediate ceasefire talks and strongly implied he had played a key role in making it happen. "I've talked to both sides," Trump said confidently. "They want to stop the killing, and they're ready to negotiate. Right now. It's going to happen. And I promise you this wouldn't be possible if I weren't involved." The crowd roared. Supporters chanted, "Trump, Trump, Trump," as if he had just single-handedly ended the war. For them, it was vintage Trump, the deal-maker who could fix what Washington and NATO couldn't. But for foreign policy experts, the announcement raised more questions than answers. Was Trump freelancing a peace deal? Were there actual backchannel talks happening? Or was this another strategic campaign play designed to dominate headlines? While Trump has previously said he could end the war in 24 hours if re-elected, this was the first time he publicly claimed a ceasefire deal was already in motion. There were no documents, no joint statements, and no confirmation from either Kiev or Moscow. Yet Trump spoke as if the matter was already settled. Ukraine's initial response was guarded. A foreign ministry spokesperson said they welcome any diplomatic effort toward ending the war, but stressed that any negotiations must respect Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The statement notably avoided any mention of Trump. Meanwhile, the Kremlin remains silent. Still, Trump's claim has already sent ripples through media outlets and diplomatic circles. Is he bluffing, or is there something real brewing behind closed doors? And if so, who's actually calling the shots? Washington, Kiev, Moscow, or Mar-a-Lago? Within hours of Trump's bold statement, the world turned to Moscow for answers. Would Russia confirm Trump's claim? Would there be official acknowledgement of ceasefire talks? Instead, the Kremlin responded with calculated vagueness. In a short press briefing, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov addressed the media. His words were carefully chosen. Russia remains open to dialogue under the appropriate conditions. However, at this stage, no specific time frame has been established for any discussions. No names, no confirmation, no mention of Trump. This brief and elusive statement ignited a wave of speculation. If Trump had indeed facilitated a ceasefire agreement, why wouldn't the Kremlin say so? Why avoid specifics? One possible explanation is political optics. For Vladimir Putin, openly aligning with Trump's claim might appear weak or compromising, especially during an ongoing war where domestic propaganda paints Russia as unwavering and dominant. Admitting influence from a former U.S. president could damage that image. Another theory is strategic delay. The Kremlin might be intentionally stalling, using the appearance of openness to gain time while assessing military positions on the battlefield. Multiple analysts believe Moscow wants to avoid a ceasefire until it secures stronger leverage in eastern Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials report no let-up in hostilities. Rocket attacks and artillery fire continued in multiple regions, with Ukrainian forces defending against Russian advances near Avdiivka and Bakhmut. This reality directly contradicts the idea of an immediate ceasefire. Western intelligence officials also weighed in anonymously, saying they were unaware of any credible diplomatic movement linked to Trump. One NATO diplomat described the Kremlin's comment as classic ambiguity, designed to give the illusion of progress while committing to nothing. In short, while Trump claims peace talks are starting, Russia's message is not so fast. Until a formal process is announced by all parties, especially from the Kremlin, Trump's statement remains unverified and politically risky. The world has seen similar breakthroughs collapse before. So, is Moscow playing for time, avoiding Trump's shadow, or quietly negotiating in secret? Whatever the reason, the Kremlin's refusal to commit is now the biggest red flag in Trump's so-called peace plan. Trump's announcement, and the Kremlin's cryptic response immediately set off a global media firestorm. Major outlets like CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, and Sky News ran breaking news segments dissecting the credibility of Trump's claim. Was this real diplomacy or just political theater? In Europe, reactions were cautious but closely tuned in. A senior EU diplomat told Reuters, "If any form of dialogue is genuinely taking place, we support it, but it must be based on real substance, not campaign slogans." Meanwhile, NATO officials publicly stated they had received no formal briefings regarding a Trump-led initiative and warned against false hope or misinformation in wartime. Ukraine's allies in Eastern Europe were more skeptical. Polish and Baltic leaders emphasized that any negotiation must come with security guarantees and must not be dictated by American political cycles. In Beijing and Ankara, two countries that have tried to mediate before, statements were more neutral. China called for a calm and diplomatic resolution, while Turkey said it remained ready to facilitate real dialogue if both sides agree. In the U.S., the announcement dominated cable news. Fox News hailed it as evidence of Trump's leadership on the global stage. On the other hand, MSNBC and CNN questioned the lack of evidence and warned about the dangers of making unverified claims in such a volatile conflict. Political analysts across the spectrum agreed on one point. Even if Trump's statement wasn't fully accurate, it had shifted the conversation and possibly the pressure onto both Moscow and Kiev to respond. Whether that was the intention or not, one thing was certain: the former president had, once again, put himself at the center of a global crisis. While Trump speaks confidently of peace, the actual diplomatic picture is far murkier and far more complex. Behind the scenes, intelligence sources suggest that unofficial and informal conversations may be occurring through back channels, possibly involving third-party countries like Turkey, Hungary, or even Qatar. These talks are not official negotiations, but rather exploratory discussions, the kind that test the waters before any serious process begins. Some experts believe Trump might be referencing these kinds of quiet exchanges, verbal expressions of interest, not concrete commitments. It's plausible that Trump was informed by individuals within or close to those back-channel efforts, leading him to speak out prematurely or selectively. U.S. officials have distanced themselves from the claim. The State Department issued a short statement saying it was not aware of any formal peace initiative involving former President Trump. They added that the U.S. continues to support Ukraine's sovereignty and that negotiations should only happen at Kiev's discretion. Meanwhile, military activity on the ground tells its own story. Satellite imagery and battlefield updates show no sign of troop withdrawals or ceasefire preparations. If anything, Russia appears to be regrouping and reinforcing positions in eastern Ukraine, which suggests the Kremlin isn't ready to stop anytime soon. So, what's really happening? Possibly nothing more than strategic messaging. Trump attempting to seize the narrative, and Putin refusing to play along, at least for now. The lack of transparency leaves room for speculation, but no one is calling this a peace breakthrough. Not yet. Until verified actions follow the words, the so-called ceasefire talks remain more rumor than reality. Trump's ceasefire announcement isn't just about Ukraine, it's about political leverage heading into 2024. By claiming he's already initiated peace talks, Trump is doing what he does best: turning a global crisis into a campaign issue. For months, he's repeated the line that if he were president, the war would have never started, or would be over in 24 hours. Now, he's escalating that narrative, suggesting he's already moving the pieces toward peace. It's a bold strategy. If any real ceasefire or negotiation emerges, even coincidentally, Trump can take credit. If nothing happens, he blames the Biden administration, NATO, or Ukraine for blocking progress. But this approach also comes with major risks. If the Kremlin never confirms talks, or if the war escalates further, Trump could be accused of spreading false hope or undermining serious diplomatic channels for political gain. For President Biden, the situation is equally tricky. He can't publicly endorse Trump's claim, but he also can't ignore it, especially if voters start believing that Trump has more influence over global events than the sitting president. In the end, this isn't just about diplomacy, it's about perception. Trump wants to be seen as the one man who can end the war, while the Kremlin appears to be playing its own slow game. And Ukraine? It's still on the front lines, where promises and politics mean little without real action. As 2024 looms closer, the line between foreign policy and campaign theater continues to blur.